Miss Marvel has finally premiered on Disney+, bringing Kamala Khan into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with vibrant color, energy, and a lot of lens flares. She is one of my favorite characters in comics, and this premiere episode may be the most comic faithful of any of the Marvel Disney+ series. The casting is pitch perfect. The Khan family, Bruno, Nakia, Zoe, all feel so authentic to the source while giving us the sense that they are real people existing in this world. Iman Villani is a star in the making as she brings Kamala to life with all the depth, insecurity, and charm I expected from the character. While I could go on and on about this series, there are dozens and dozens of comics, MCU, and cultural Easter eggs for us to break down, so let's jump right into it. I'm Monty from the MontyVerse, and this is the breakdown of Miss Marvel Episode 1, Generation Y. Replacing the standard Marvel fanfare music is Blinded by the Light by The Weeknd, the song that we heard in the trailers of this show. We see a clip of Doctor Strange from the Multiverse of Madness has been added, as well as an awesome Moon Knight clip appearing over the M in Marvel Studios. The episode opens by introducing us to Kamala Khan through a YouTube video she is making about Captain Marvel and the Battle of Earth, which is the final fight in Avengers Endgame. This is a direct reference to the comics, where we are introduced to Kamala writing Captain Marvel fan fiction. The change to YouTuber is more visually appealing and modern, which makes her even more relatable. The video conveys her love for heroes, creativity, and her vivid imagination. In her video, we see Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, Fat Thor, Okoye, and Black Panther, as well as Hawkeye with a rubber band bow. We also get Rescue, Valkyrie, Scarlet Witch, and Ant-Man. Speaking of Ant-Man, the video also tells us that Scott Lang has given multiple podcast interviews post-Endgame, which is totally something Scott would do. Kamala then begins to talk about her favorite hero, Captain Marvel, and if you look closely, you can see a drawing of Carol Danvers' OG Miss Marvel suit on Kamala's wall. She tells us all about the cool things Carol did in the Battle of Earth, like take down the Sanctuary 2, 2 other warships, and punch Thanos in the face. Thanos here wearing a tilted crown, which I'm assuming is an homage to the Rick Ross-inspired fan art of Thanos. The video even references Carol's ever-changing hair, and we get a reference to her hairstyle from the comics when she was first introduced. She mentions the fact that Captain Marvel is constantly leaving the Earth, and that a lot of people are critiquing Carol Danvers. Kamala obviously feels a strong connection to the hero, and we will touch on exactly why that is later. Her YouTube channel is called Sloth Baby Productions, which is a reference to Kamala's love of sloths in the comics, having even been called Sloth Baby at one point. These winged sloths can even be seen during her Terrigenesis in the comics when she gets her powers. As we get a glimpse of a video titled Ant-Man and the Wasp Vacation in Paris, we see that she has 2 subscribers, and we can assume they are her best friends Bruno and Nakia, as we see their comments under this video. Bruno's is kind and supportive, and Nakia's features a link for a charity page, which hints at her activist side from the comics. Kamala's room is full of evidence that she is a die-hard Captain Marvel fan, as we see her cosplay for AvengerCon, Captain Marvel posters, sketches of herself as Captain Marvel, and artwork from the Ms. Marvel comic series as an Easter egg. Her mother calls her down for breakfast, and this scene plays out almost identically to how it does in the comics, as we were introduced to the Khan family. Aamir, the devout, religious, but loyal older brother. Yousef, who is the goofy, loving, and insightful father. And the mother Muneeba, who is stern and strict, but with purpose. We jump to Kamala at her driver's exam, and we have graffiti on the wall telling us the setting of the series, Jersey City, New Jersey, which is Big M's stomping ground in Marvel Comics. We see Kamala say Bismillah. Just like Aamir had told her to earlier, it is an Islamic phrase which means in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. It is one of the most important phrases in Islam and is used by Muslims mostly before starting good deeds or most daily actions. The opening credits are bright with the logo of the series in different styles, including one that resembles the Miss Marvel comics. The driving test does not go so well, and we see Kamala's protective parents go to bat for her, even though she kinda messed up. Kamala's school is Cole's Academic High School, the same charming place it was in the comics. And speaking of those books, on the plaque by the door, we see tons of references to them. The names on the left side are 4 of the creators of Miss Marvel, while the names on the right are other notable artists and writers who have worked on the series. We enter the high school and we see that Kamala is a bit of an outcast. The other students give her looks, her gym teacher gets her name wrong, and she's too timid to ask 2 girls making out in front of her locker to just move over so she can get her textbook. Luckily, Kamala has two BFFs to share the struggle with as we are formally introduced to the first of them, which is Bruno Corelli, the Italian-American genius that lives with his immigrant nonno and nonna, who has feelings for Kamala in more than a friend type of way. He's become very close to the Khan family over the years, and he will be going to AvengerCon with Kamala. Next, we have Nakia, a girl that Kamala met when she was a lot younger, who she connected with due to their similar upbringings and struggles. Nakia is not nearly as nerdy as Kamala and Bruno, but she does reference playing video games with Kamala on the weekends, which is something they do frequently in the comics due to the strict nature of their family's beliefs, not allowing them to go out on the weekend nights unsupervised. The next character we meet is the mean girl, Zoe Zimmer. In the comics, Zoe is portrayed as a lot more passive-aggressive and mean, and in the show, I think she is coming across more as misunderstood and someone who puts up a front to hide her true self out of fear for not being accepted. We see more of this later at AvengerCon when she is away from her friends and in costume. She seems nicer and more relaxed, able to be herself. Kamala is called into the office of her counselor, Mr. Gabe Wilson. Gabe W. Wilson, to be exact, a reference to one of the creators of Ms. Marvel and the most famous writer of the character, G. Willow Wilson. You can even see the initials GWW on his desk during their sessions. Kamala was called in due to her constant daydreaming, which we see throughout the episode with beautiful visuals courtesy of the directors. But it is starting to affect her schoolwork, with many teachers complaining about her head in the clouds, constant doodling, and staring into space. He tells her that she is in her junior year and she needs to figure out the rest of her life. He quotes Mulan, which is fitting because not only is it owned by Daddy Disney, but it is a story of a young girl who is leading a double life, struggling with her identity. After school, Kamala and Bruno are inside the Circle Q where Bruno works, and the interior here looks like it was copied almost straight from the comics. We see Bruno airbrushing her Captain Marvel cosplay. Bruno tells her to be direct with her parents, but Kamala does not have a great relationship with her mother because she doesn't know how to open up to her. Kamala thinks she sees her as a weirdo and that she looks down on the things she likes, which I'm sure we can all relate to in some way or shape or form. Also in the Circle Q, we see a QR code, and if you followed the link, it brought you to the first issue of Ms. Marvel, which this episode is heavily based off of. Bruno and Kamala ride across Jersey City on their bikes as they discuss flair for her cosplay, and this scene shows us different versions of Captain Marvel, including steampunk and Asgardian Captain Marvel, a Panther version, a Doctor Strange looking one, a zombie version, Princess Marvel, and an Iron Man Captain Marvel. Back at home, Kamala is watching what I think is an old episode of Felicity when she peeks inside a box that belonged to her Nani, her maternal grandmother. As she rummages through it, she discovers this ancient-looking bangle that immediately grabs her attention, but her mother claims it's all junk and has Aamir bring it to the attic. Kamala and Muneeba go run errands, and we get a nice montage showing us the culture as they go to different vendors and stores and accrue many bags along the way. While shopping for a dress, Kamala and Muneeba run into an auntie. The term auntie in Middle Eastern culture can refer to someone outside of direct relation. It is a common phrase used to describe a woman older than 30. With some sort of connection or relation to you. Muneeba and this woman begin to gossip as they talk of a young girl who decided to leave to travel the world. And while they trash talk her, Kamala comments that it is good that she followed her dream, as the two women dismiss her completely and go back to their gossip. Back at the house, Bruno is teaching her dad how to use his new invention, the Zuzu, which basically is just Amazon Alexa. But Bruno taught Zuzu to understand Urdu because he really just is the best boy. This continues to show off Bruno's intelligence as well as his love of building things, a trait he shares with his comic counterpart. Muneeba and Yousef love Bruno, and when her and Kamala return home, Muneeba gives Bruno dinner to bring home to his nonno and nonna, who again are his primary caretakers. Kamala then bites the bullet and finally asks her parents if she can go to AvengerCon. It is a very awkward conversation, as both sides are once again having trouble communicating with each other. Kamala's parents love and trust her, and I'm in no way an expert, so please correct me in the comments if you are more familiar with the culture, but in Middle Eastern culture, it is common practice for parents to be very overprotective of female members, citing what would the society think or just a general fear of what might happen. The Khans genuinely seem to only care about Kamala's safety, but are going about it in a way that doesn't work because Kamala is very strong, opinionated, and passionate. Someone who's struggling with these rules because it seems unfair to them. I mean, when she tells her parents she's going dressed as Captain Marvel, her mother's response is that she doesn't want her to look like the other girls wearing skimpy outfits, but Captain Marvel wears an extremely modest uniform that covers about 95% of her body. After the train wreck that was the conversation, Aamir brings Kamala chai tea, which is very common in Pakistani households. And no, it is not the same as a chai tea latte, so don't ask. It is almost ritualistic in its consumption, and it represents calm and heightened sense. The Khans can be seen enjoying this beverage all the time throughout the Ms. Marvel comic series. Aamir says that he will talk to their parents for Kamala, and it's interesting because Aamir can relate to both sides in the situation. He's older, religious, and was born in Pakistan, so he understands their parents' desire to continue and pass on their traditions, but at the same time, he came to America when he was 5 years old, so he grew up in America, is marrying a non-Pakistani convert, and understands Kamala's frustration with the strictness and rigidity of their culture. Also important to note is that he makes the first reference to Jinn, but let's pocket that for right this second. We get to this beautifully unique text exchange between Kamala and Bruno that is awesome. I think filmmakers' lack of vision really hinder their ability to make text conversations visually appealing on screen, but that is not the case here, as the messages appear in streetlights, on walls, and the camera moves with them as we go from a Kamala's room to Bruno's atop the Circle Q. The next day, we see Kamala trying on her Captain Marvel cosplay, and she feels great wearing it, but it's very obvious that she appears to struggle with her looks. Her mother comes in and tells her Aamir spoke to her and Kamala's father, and they decided to let Kamala go to AvengerCon, with conditions. Her father will take her. He'll come inside the event for 2 hours, and she will wear a costume that her mother had made. This leads to quite possibly one of the most heartbreaking and real scenes in the MCU, as Yousef bursts through the door, Kool-Aid Man style, in a Pakistani-inspired Hulk cosplay, carrying one for Kamala as well. Kamala is visibly upset, and her gut reaction is to lash out at her parents, causing them to feel like she is ashamed of them and their culture, leaving both sides hurt and ashamed, with Yousef leaving the room dejected, holding back tears. As hard as the scene is to watch, it is one we must break down because it is this scene that perfectly defines the inner struggle happening inside Kamala Khan. This scene essentially is peak Kamala from the comics. The reason why Kamala is so obsessed with Carol Danvers is because she is everything Kamala thinks she wants to be. She's Kamala's idea of what perfect or normal is. A beautiful, tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, powerful woman who can overcome the biggest challenges on her own. This idealization is strengthened even further in the MCU because of all the hate Captain Marvel gets in and out of the universe. She loves Carol because some people choose not to accept her, but Carol doesn't need anyone's acceptance. So when Kamala's parents come in and rip away the one opportunity she has to be independent, to look how she wants to feel normal, by telling her she has to wear a Pakistani Hulk cosplay, Kamala lashes out. However, Kamala's parents never intended to hurt her. They're simply people who are proud of their heritage and their culture, and their main goal is to raise 2 children who accept and pass on that culture in order to keep it alive. So when Kamala lashes out, they also take it personally because they feel like Kamala is ashamed of their culture, and it cuts them deep. Neither side is 100% right or wrong, but the lack of a healthy line of communication due to the strictness of the Khan family and the immaturity and insecurities of Kamala led to this explosion of raw emotion. But, moving on from that, we see Bruno applying for something at Caltech. This mimics a storyline of his later on in the comics where he gets injured and decides to move away from Jersey on an academic scholarship in order to put distance between him and Kamala. I'm assuming the decision of whether or not to go may be Bruno's arc for Season 1 or possibly a cliffhanger at the end. Kamala contacts Bruno informing him of the meltdown that occurred with her parents, and they meet on the roof. There is a sign here that says Edison Electric. That, plus the cockatiel we see during the opening montage, are both a reference to Kamala's first supervillain in the comic, the inventor. Mad scientist Gregory Knox was attempting to clone Thomas Edison, but during the final process, his pet cockatiel got in the way, and the 2 DNAs mixed, creating the inventor, a human-bird hybrid with the brains of Thomas Edison. Smash cut to Kamala at gym, where she is slammed in the face with a dodgeball again, courtesy of Zoe Zimmer, who simply laughs it off. Again, I think there's more here to Zoe than we see in this episode, so let's bear with her, guys, as the season continues. Things are still tense between Kamala and her parents as Yousef is fighting with the Zuzu device Bruno made for him. This is where we get our second reference to the Jinn. This also gives Kamala an idea to attend AvengerCon. She explains the plan to Bruno in a very stylized Ocean's 11 type of way. In Kamala's imagination, she sees herself in the original MCU Captain Marvel outfit as opposed to the Endgame style one she made, and this suit is less homemade and more the one made for the movie. Kamala's plan to sneak out involves a large tree branch, which was her method of escape in the comics as well. In her mind, she envisions Bruno cosplaying as Tony Stark, complete with the glove he used in Civil War. But in reality, he ends up going as Bruce Banner, which is interesting as it shows how Kamala sees Bruno and how Bruno sees Bruno. Kamala's plan is perfect down to the last detail in her mind, so obviously nothing will go wrong. Bruno tells Kamala that in order to better understand her parents, perhaps she should add some cultural flair to the cosplay. This spurs Kamala to go upstairs and grab the bangle from the attic, revealing to us childhood artwork from Kamala that shows her love of heroes and art started at a very young age. It is the day of AvengerCon, and Kamala attempts to enact her plan, sneaking away to her room after dinner. Already late for the bus, she suits up and jumps to the tree branch, only for it to collapse. Her and Bruno just make it to the last bus, but the doors close on her bike, forcing Kamala to leave it. After all that stress, the pair arrive at AvengerCon, which is just a flurry of Easter eggs. The first of which being that the event takes place at Camp Lehigh in New Jersey, the birthplace of Captain America, and the first time we have seen this place in modern times since Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Speaking of the first Avenger, we see people dressed as the USO girls from that movie, as well as Black Widow, Drax, Ant-Man, Wakandans, Rocket Raccoon cosplays, and more as they enter the event. We also hear an instrumental of the Star Spangled Man with a plan play in the background, and my heart melts because I'm such a fan of the first Avenger. At the event, there are attractions for things Hulk Smash, Realm of Asgard, a Groot standee, a Meet Thor section, Ironettes from Iron Man 2, a picture referencing Captain America wielding his most powerful weapon, America's ass, no doubt coming from Scott's podcast interview. There's also an Asgard Pride shirt, Marvel Legends collectibles, people running around with toy Infinity Gauntlets, a Giant Man statue for photo ops, a memorial for Iron Man and Black Widow, as well as statues for Captain America, Doctor Strange, Wanda Maximoff, Black Widow, and Iron Man. With Wanda having her own statue, I am honestly curious as to when this takes place. As you know, after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I'm gonna assume that she's not the most loved hero in the MCU. Kamala is in awe of the Captain Marvel display as she admires her hero in her glory. The Captain Marvel cosplay contest is up next, and just then Kamala sees Zoe Zimmer in a very revealing version of the Captain Marvel outfit, which is essentially just Carol's original Ms. Marvel suit from the comics, palette swapped with her Captain Marvel colors. As Kamala goes to get changed, we see a Lego Captain America in the bathroom. She attempts to put the bangle on but can't, so when she hears the last call, she runs off forgetting her gloves that Bruno made for her. None other than the official Marvel YouTuber and Marvel.com personality Ryan Penegos is hosting the cosplay event, and over the PA, we can hear a version of the Marvel Studios fanfare. Kamala frantically attempts to get the bangle open with no time to go back for her gloves, and she finally opens the bracelet. She puts it on, and in that moment, she has a vision bathed in purple light that almost looks like the Dark Dimension from Doctor Strange. We see dozens and dozens of shadowy figures with white eyes as Kamala snaps out of it and is rushed on stage. Kamala is dazed but attempts to perform, and she inadvertently activates her new powers, throwing out a light structure from her bracelet. She's being recorded by the crowd as she continues to do this, but is unable to fully control it. She accidentally hits the head of the giant Ant-Man statue, knocking it loose and creating some brief chaos at the event. During the scuffle, Zoe approaches the mystery Marvel and compliments her, but is hit with Mjolnir. Not Mjolnir. Giant fake Mjolnir. Just like in her first comic save, Kamala extends her arm and creates a giant hand, saving Zoe and paying homage to her embiggen powers. Let's talk powers. No, these are not Kamala's original powers from the comics. In the comics, Kamala is a polymorph and has the ability to change the size of her entire body. These powers are more in line with that of quantum bands, bracelets used by the original Captain Marvel and later the hero Quasar that are able to create hard light constructs. Whether Kamala's bangle is one of the quantum bands is yet to be seen, but it would tie Kamala Khan into the cosmic side of the MCU and the greater history of the Captain Marvel lineage. In the comics, Kamala is also an Inhuman, and while it does not appear to be the case here, the way the writers are so respectful to the source, I am sure that we're going to get something involving her genetics that allows her to be super. That is why I think the villain of this series are the Jinn, or a version of the Jinn. Bruno and Kamala run away on his bike, and they make it back to her house at 11:11, make a wish, exactly 3 hours later than she planned. Kamala thinks she's in the clear, but her mother is in her room waiting. She tells her how disappointed she is and that it's time for her to stop fantasizing and decide who she really wants to be. Like in the comic, Kamala stares at a picture of Captain Marvel, having already made up her mind. She was going to be a hero. The credits are awesome, and there are constant uses of cover artwork from the Ms. Marvel comic series. even artwork that shows her using her embiggen powers. So I really like how the directors didn't shy away from that and aren't afraid to show her using these separate abilities that she has in the comics. The post-credit scene shows the Department of Damage Control looking at the footage from AvengerCon when Agent Cleary from No Way Home says to bring her in. And that leads us to the end of Ms. Marvel episode 1. What did you guys think of the first episode? Me, personally, I loved it. This is my favorite premiere episode of any of the Marvel Disney Plus series. I love the pacing. I love the energy. I loved Kamala. Iman Villani is a freaking star in the making, guys. But there's still a lot of show left. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all of the latest breakdown videos that we have for Ms. Marvel. And if you liked the video, make sure to give us an embiggen thumbs up and comment down below your thoughts on the episode and let me know if I missed anything. Until next time, guys, stay versed.